A shocking, deadly war has already been waged in which more than 100 million people could have perished. This video provides the stunning details. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini, where I provide unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender, Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. In my January 23, 2025 video exposing child killers and murderers, I mentioned that German masqueraders, that's people of German ancestry living in white countries, in the United States decided to make good on their threats against those who communicate information to me and made attempts on the lives of national and local Tampa, Florida TV anchors on ABC and NBC News networks by poisoning their food. National TV anchors included David Muir, George Stephanopoulos, Robin Roberts, Michael Strahan, and others from the ABC and ABC USA network, Savannah Guthrie, Hoda Kotb, Jose Diaz-Balart, Kate Snow, and others from the NBC USA network. I estimated that the total number of people on whose lives murder attempts were made was likely around 100. My sources then began to indicate that the number was much higher than 100. So I asked if it was 1,000, then 5,000, then 10,000, then 50,000, or 100,000. Each time my sources kept indicating that the number was even higher than that. Then I simply asked if it was more than 1 million. I got the stunning response that the number of people on whose lives attempts were made by German masqueraders was more than 1 million. Then I asked if it was more than 2 million, 5 million, or 10 million. I was told that the number was more than 10 million. This was absolutely shocking news for me. I still wanted to get a more accurate number. So I asked if the number of people on whose lives murder attempts were made was more than 50 million. Finally, I asked if the number was anywhere near 100 million. I was informed that German masqueraders made attempts on the lives of more than 100 million people in America. That means a one-sided war has already been fought in the United States. If God Almighty had not intervened, we would have had more than 100 million Americans dead from poison, mostly whites of non-German ancestry, and possibly many minorities of every ethnicity. How and why did this happen? In 2000 and 2001, when I learned that German masqueraders had been murdering people in restaurants and at other events by poisoning their food or by giving wrong prescriptions, I realized how easy it was to mass murder people. So I prayed to God Almighty to intervene and save Israelite nations from this potential catastrophe. By Israelite nations, I mean America and British Commonwealth nations. After my prayer, German masqueraders sent out a call to murder as many Israelites, that's white Americans of non-German ancestry, and the Jews as possible by poisoning their food or by other means in America. The main targets were IT professionals, that's information technology professionals, scientists, serving and retired top military officers, statesmen, business and political leaders. The order also went out for German masquerader spouses who had married non-masquerader spouses to murder their spouses and their own children. These orders were carried out. People were poisoned or other murder attempts were made. But God answered my prayers and intervened to prevent these attempts from succeeding. This intervention probably saved tens of millions of lives in America alone and probably additional millions in British Commonwealth nations. If God had not heard these prayers, the US economy would have collapsed in 2000 to 2001 with the murder of most IT professionals. It would also have led to an immediate attack on our nations and certain defeat in war and national slavery. Before that mass murder attempt in 2000 to 2001, about 10 million white Americans of non German ancestry had already been murdered in a genocide from 1960 to 2000 to 2001. After these murder attempts were discovered, I did not think German masqueraders would be bold enough to make another similar attempt knowing that we would retaliate. In the earlier genocide, about 5 to 6 million whites of non German ancestry were cremated alive in electric crematoriums, and 3 to 4 million were medically murdered. Those two methods of murdering our people are no longer available. Therefore, I thought that the only method available for mass murdering people was by poisoning their food in restaurants or by other means. In that case, each murder would be individually investigated and murderers brought to justice. That would have stopped the murders quickly before it turned into a mass murder situation. Because I did not think the possibility of mass murdering people in the United States existed any longer, for the past 6 months I had been praying with thanks to God to protect my family members, those who help me with information at the major TV networks, anyone else who renders personal services or any help to me, then my friends who might be targeted, and myself. I did not anticipate any mass murder attempt. Therefore, I did not pray for general protection uh, for the general population on our side, meaning whites of non German ancestry and their allies, as I had done in 2000 to 2001. I should have known better. When guided by Satan, German masqueraders can always spring stunning new surprises. This time in a coordinated fashion with the help of hundreds of thousands of restaurants and caterers. From their side, they poisoned more than 100 million people over a short period of time. If some people had died, the murder attempt spree would have been stopped in its tracks. But since all the intended victims survived, the mass murder attempts remained hidden. German masqueraders are well known to carry out such events in a coordinated fashion. They inform tens of thousands or tens of millions of would be murderers to carry out their murder attempts starting on a particular date and within a very short time after that. That's how the murders were carried out in 2000 to 2001. Then, in the Church of God, which is my church, members who were German masqueraders or their allies were asked to make a commitment to the masquerader side by murdering a genuine member of God's church if they wanted to be spared when a German led alliance defeats our nations. A particular date, April 19, 2019, was selected when the entire church would be observing a feast called the Night to be Much Observed with a special dinner the same evening when the Jews observed the Passover. In this latest attempt, also a particular date would have been set for hundreds of thousands of restaurants to begin the murders. That's why we would have been unable to prevent it from turning into a mass murder event. There was another major difference this time. In the previous genocide from 1960 to 2000 and the one in 2000 to 2001, only white persons of non German ancestry or their allies were targeted. This time, the intended victims included people of all races, including some of their own German masqueraders who were the unintended victims in a group catering event or at restaurants or in takeout or home delivery when the restaurant owner did not know the identity of the individual customer. Therefore, all white people of non German ancestry and all non white people should collectively thank God for intervening to save them alive. In a May 2024 survey of 1,500 Americans, 81% of respondents said they dined out at least once a month and 39% once a week or more, while 57% of people say they prefer ordering takeout or delivery. 43% prefer to dine at a restaurant. With as many as 81% of Americans eating out at restaurants, or ordering takeout or delivery at least once a month, it's easy to understand how more than 100 million Americans would have been poisoned, uh, would have been served poisoned food to kill them. This genocide attempt in 2024 and 2025 was at least 10 times bigger than the attempt in 2000 to 2001. Now, there are over 1 million restaurants or eating establishments in the United States. My guess is that very large number, perhaps as much as half of them, are owned by German masqueraders and their allies who would have participated in this attempted genocide. That's why it's not difficult to imagine that a genocide on this scale was attempted. I've also been informed that food growers or suppliers have clandestinely supplied poisoned food even to grocery stores. You can imagine the scale of God's intervention. Our side needs to be on guard about this possibility in the future. I see some of our vegetables, such as organic green beans and broccoli and other processed foods, are now being imported from Europe. It seems German masqueraders own much of our food producing farms. Food is being imported from Europe and Latin America to diversify our sources of supply. We should identify all German masquerader food growing establishments and restaurants and stop buying food from them in America as much as possible. The most important question then is, why was this genocide attempt made at this particular time? The reason was the July 2024 assassination attempt on the life of then presidential candidate Donald Trump. When an assassination attempt on the life of a top German leader is made, that's how they react. That would be true of any powerful nation. That gave them about 6 months to plan and carry out the latest genocide in 2024 and 2025. That's enough time to reach more than 100 million people to be served food in restaurants. Just to understand the German masquerader logic in their decision making, they initiate almost all the violence. They order innocent people with threats to act against their own will and best interests and restrict their freedoms. When such people violate their orders even once or twice in decades, they order them to be murdered. They feel they are free to kill anyone they want. This attitude stems from their belief that they are the only human beings with a divine spark in them with an eternal future, whereas the rest of human life is like animal life created merely to serve them. They have no eternal future at all. Therefore, they think there is no problem in killing them, as there is no problem in killing animals to serve their purposes. When the victim side retaliates by making attempts on the lives of the masqueraders who gave the orders, particularly the top leaders, they ordered genocide on those who retaliated. That's what happened in the latest case. The latest episode started because the assassination of members of my brother's family was ordered because in over 2 decades they disobeyed German masqueraders' orders 4 to 5 times to not have anything to do with me because they wanted to isolate me. The reason they wanted to isolate me was that I exposed and criticized their evil deeds. This is how God views the situation. He sees the German masquerader side ordering people to do things against their will because they want to control the nation's wealth and want to impoverish other people. When they exercise their freedom and disobey their orders, the masqueraders order them to be murdered. Then the other side retaliates by bringing the murderer to justice. The masqueraders then order a genocide, that's total extermination. God is the creator of all of humanity. He decides to act sometimes when he sees such gross unfairness amounting to downright wickedness. That's why he intervened to save the lives of more than 100 million people in this genocide attempt in 2024 to 2025 and acted to save the lives of millions of people in 2000 to 2001. I hope our side has already executed most of those who made the murder attempts and those German masquerader millionaires who ordered them to do so. I've already identified two such millionaires, the actor David Keith Lynch and retired baseball player and play-by-play commentator Bob Uecker, who were recently put to death. We should not let even one of those who participated in this genocide remain alive. I've been informed that more than 20 have been put to death who served me poisoned food. Unless we bring such murderers to justice swiftly by putting them to death, we are simply encouraging them to continue making more attempts. They will also force people with threats who have received rewards from them for previous murders to make such attempts anyway. We should not repeat the mistake we made in 2000 to 2001 when we knew that some restaurant owners had made attempts on the lives of some of our prominent people but let them go free. The only way to stop murderers from committing more murders is to end their lives swiftly. We see that the first salvo in the civil war in America has already been fired. If God had not intervened on such a massive scale, our non German side would have already lost the war and we would have been exterminated. Our side should continue to give thanks to God and pray for His continued help. We know that the Germans and German masqueraders are guided by Satan the devil. But Satan is a created being, created by the only true God, the God of the Bible. He is the creator of all creation. We should give thanks to Him with this high intervention. Please remember my previous post about January 16, 2024 being a very prominent date because on that date I completed 19 years, a one-time cycle of warning the world about what is prophesied. God generally issues warnings in time cycle periods. That has been completed. We anticipated major events to take place soon after. Within 6 months, the first assassination attempt took place on the life of Donald Trump on July 13, 2024. Soon after, the clandestine genocide attempt on our side was unleashed, which went undetected by our side for months. We should expect events towards the start of the Third World War to speed up. I had wondered how soon all hell will break loose after the personal inauguration on January 20, 2025. Some of the key department heads are still undergoing the confirmation process, whereas others have already been confirmed. I personally might be facing a very rough time with multiple lawsuits or even to bundle me up and deport me illegally. There are other developments taking place in India. I will keep you informed. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, how Bible prophecy is playing an important role in world affairs, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also follow me on my YouTube and Facebook channels, Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini.